Morning. Good morning. Today, I wish to talk about something that has been an issue in Igboland, and it's about ancestral lands. Some years ago, I was in a conversation with a friend who wasn't Igbo. He was into, and he is still into real estate. And he told me about his frustration in buying land in Igboland. And I did quite understand his frustration, which is the fact that the Nigerian southeast is quite insular. Most of the land is communally held, so it's more difficult to convince a collection of people rather than where you just have to convince one person or two to buy their piece of land. So his frustration was quite valid. But that is the situation on ground. Most Igbo communities would rather sell land to people within the same community or members of their kindred than sell their land to outsiders, maybe people from outside of their village or outside of their town, and of course, who are still outside of the state or outside of Igbo land itself. So land is a tricky subject in the southeast. Not helped by the fact that the southeast does not have as much land as you would find in the north, where you have vast expanse of land. This is not the same with the southeast. So most people are frustrated with getting land in the east. But in recent times, things have begun to change. What we used to know as communal lands, things have happened. Because apart from that, there is running side by side with the issue of land is the fact that most Igbo people who are known, of course, to be enterprising choose to go about their businesses outside of Igbo land. And of course, some others would live on the land, run their businesses here when they can. So for those who go abroad or outside of Igbo land, they expect that those who stay back would look after their communally held assets. And then, of course, if there is a need to chip in with some financial aid, they easily send those back to help access to finance, help infrastructure like schools, roads, and of course in the religious part, build or repair churches and all that. So that's what the diaspora does. I can see you, Linda. You're welcome. Thank you for joining. And for others also watching, entertaining your questions and addressing some of your concerns. Okay, so as I was saying, the people that are left at home to take care of these assets, there is an Igbo adage that says that ndị nọ n'ụlọ n'ọlụ ndị nọ n'ezi, ndị nọ n'ezi n'ọlụ ndị nọ n'ụlọ. That is to say, those who we've left back at home are there for the sake of those who have traveled out. And those who have traveled out are there for the sake of those who we've left back at home. So when people go like that, they expect that these assets will be taken care of by the people who had stayed back. Unfortunately, it is what is happening in recent times that have seemed to alter these dynamics. Most people have had to come back home to find that most of these assets have been disposed of without a meeting, without information, without anything known to those who've left, only to return to find that these assets are no longer there. So it's not like land hasn't been disposed in the absence of those who have traveled before, but in the past, there were meetings. The Igbo man strives, lives in things like this, where you have the communality with the umuna of immediate families, you have the kindred, you have the clan, you have the village, you have the towns. And then outside in the diaspora, all of these levels are replicated in unions that are formed, outside of the places that are naturally Igboland. You know of the case in South Africa now, where there is backlash against the installation of an Igbo king in South Africa. The same has happened in Lagos. It's happening in most places where people find the Igbo and their idea of communality intimidating. So it is in these levels of unions or of town unions, village associations or assemblies that such informations are usually passed, such that even if an asset is disposed of by those who have been left as custodians of such in the homes or in the homeland, the proceeds of such are then there is a way that these things are then find their way back to those abroad, and they have their own share of the sales. Let me just quickly look at this message and then continue. George Davis, this is a very important topic for Igbos. I don't know if you're what you've put here can be addressed by this topic. And would really appreciate it if we stick to the topic now. Okay, so as I was saying, when these assets are disposed of, following adequate adequate consultations with those who matter, you find that there is never any issue, as was done in the past. Account numbers of all those concerned are collected within and outside of Igboland, and everybody is duly compensated. There is usually no issue. What we have found in recent times is that those who are meant to look after these issues then go about selling off these assets without due consultations, without compensation to those who have been affected by this. For those who had always felt that these pieces of land are held in trust on behalf of the family, kindred, clan, village, or town. This is what is happening currently in most parts of the Southeast, and is beginning to be a source of fracture for families and for all those involved. It is very disheartening. What is even far more disheartening and distressing is the fact that those who have perpetrated this, I don't know if I should call it a criminal venture, go unapologetic about it. They insist and carry on as if no wrong has been done. In certain instances, graveyards of forebears and gravelands have been sold away, have been disposed of, especially because the one these things are not are young. They are not old enough to know that on this piece of land had been graveyards of ancestors. So this is very disheartening. The young people back home on the homeland who today are manning different leadership positions because the older ones have lost a taste for it, or because of their numbers they've been able to overwhelm the older, maybe more knowledgeable, at least in terms of tradition and culture. They have taken over and have thrown caution to the wind and have gone about things in ways that are uncouth, in ways that are very, that are without shame, and have gone into things that they shouldn't even be doing. This is mostly because I don't know if I should call this the present economic situation in the country, where there are no jobs. Many youths lack the skills that one needs to survive in societies because of either lack of education or employable education. So they've gone into the land, and the noise is that there is wealth in the land or wealth in the forest, and have begun to sell off these assets, mostly land. They have not considered the kind of things that were considered in the past that have made the Southeast insular, like not selling land to people outside of the family or outside of the kindred or outside of the clan, outside of the villages or outside of the towns, and then of course outside of the state. They've thrown caution to the wind. The land goes to the highest bidder, even if that person is someone who will not consider environmental issues. Welcome, Hail 777. I hope you engage. So as I was saying, they've not made any considerations concerning all of the things that were not in the past. They just sell this because of the agency fees that they will get, especially for those in leadership positions. They sell this because of the pecuniary advantages that come with it. And of course, the little they have, the little that is left will then be shared amongst those who were there when it happened or those who heard about it. Unlike in the past where it was streamlined, such that apart from the agency fees, you would have the share equally made amongst all members of the clan, of the kindred, of the family, and so on and so forth. This is the situation most communities have found themselves in Igboland, and it is very sad and disheartening. Very, very sad and disheartening. So I don't know what your situation is or what is happening in your own place, but if you look at it, you will know that even if they are not the same, they are just similar in the way these things have been happening. So what do I say, or what am I trying to say? The fabric that holds families together, that holds kindreds together, that holds clans together, that holds villages and towns together in Igboland is gradually being torn apart at a very, very fast rate. Hill 777, your question is valid. I live in Nigeria, and I've been what I'm talking about is about something that is happening in the southeast of Nigeria with the sale of communal assets by those people who have been left to take care of them in the southeast of Nigeria. Where are you from, or where do you live? Hill 777. Okay, so let me go on, and I will address your comments as they come in. So this is very sad. This is very unfortunate. This is, if you know, when you see where these things are debated, in some communities, lives have been lost because of what is happening with communally held assets. People who feel wronged by what has been done because they've been intentionally left out of the largesse, or they've not been properly consulted. It's not because they need any of that kind of blood money, but there was no proper consultation. A rug was virtually swept off under their very feet. Some people have taken these, much more seriously than any other should. Okay, Hail 7777 I see that you live in Iraq. Do you do these kind of things? Or the kind of thing I'm talking about, does it happen often in Iraq? While I wait for your response, I'll just continue. Okay, so as I was saying, some people take these things much more seriously and they go on rampage. So you find intra-community conflicts and violence, because a side is wronged and the side that is responsible for the mayhem, that is responsible for the disrespect, either goes on a defensive or offensive, as the case may be. Blood is shed and communities go in disarray just because of the selfishness of a part of the community, or selfishness on the part of those who have been left as custodians, not because they earned it, but just because they were not the ones that had to travel or leave for greener pastures. Only for those who have left to come back to find that some of the assets that they've left in the control of people who didn't have to leave had been sold. Sometimes you find those people who've left send back money, people in diaspora send back money home for those at home to help with to help them maybe build a home or do one thing or the other or purchase one asset or the other, and find that none of that had been done or that the money has been frittered away. This is very sad and it happens every day. Apparently, the ones that have been left back at home may feel it's their right. I don't know how to put it. They feel entitled to the wealth of those in diaspora. Feel entitled to the handouts that they get from those in diaspora. They feel entitled to the assets that is communally held. That, yes, of course, if they're the ones that have been watching over these things, they should have either more of it when it is sold, or they should decide what should happen to such without the knowledge of those in diaspora. They don't need, they think like they don't need it. They're already making it. But even if they are, how about who thinks about the kind of challenge, pressure, trouble, problems that those in diaspora have to go through to make this pound or dollar foreign currency that they send home in remittances, such that the kind of remittances that Nigerians abroad send back home almost, I don't know, as in the amount is in quantum that if put together, if it were something that goes to a national purse, could fund the budget of this country. But the relief that it brings to to millions of Nigerians whose life could have been in dire straits without these diaspora remittances. So all of this goes back home, and the ones that are trusted to man or protect these assets simply fritter them away. It is a very sad narrative. It is very sad what is happening. Like I said earlier on, communities have been split. Communities have been torn apart. Brothers have gone at each other's throats because of this issue. And it is very sad. I wish things could be better. I don't know if they're going to change anytime soon. There is no sign of that. And it is very sad that it's like this. So if you I had asked earlier, I would like to hear your comment if this kind of thing is happening in your own locality and what is being done to settle this kind of issues. And there are many cases in courts where people have decided to, apply the legal option. And I have already alluded to the fact that there are wars or conflicts and violence, going on in some other parts of the southeast where the legal option have either not been exhausted or has been unsatisfactory. So that is also an issue. It's so in essence, what I'm saying is that there is no peace where these kind of things exist. And even if there is one, it is the peace of the graveyard, you know. And of course, this is because of the selfishness and greed of those people who have been, who by reason of the fact that they are at home, have been automatically made custodians of the assets back in the homeland of the southeast of Nigeria. So that is the situation of things. It is a very unfortunate situation. It is very sad, and it is turned the place into, like I said, a situation where we have a piece of the graveyard waiting just for a trigger, and brothers will turn upon themselves. It is very sad. I would just stop here for now. If there are comments, if there is any contribution, observation, you can go in the comment section and put it, and we can continue to discuss this offline. I'm ready to entertain your questions. And of course, if you do have solutions on as to what we can do or as to what can be done to remedy the situation in the southeast, this is presently an ongoing situation. In some places, it is still a tip of the iceberg. In some other places, it's full blown violence. And in the past, we've recorded situations such in other places, in which the violence really turned bloody and needed the intervention by the state government, even the federal government at some point, with the forces of coercion of government, like the security forces getting involved and putting boots on ground to ensure and maintain peace and stability in such affected communities. Of course, you can then go on to the larger parts of what is at the heart of insecurity in Nigeria, with the battle between herders and farmers over land. You know, so but that's on a bigger scale. I am really focused now about what is happening within families and between families and kindreds, and small localities where disrespect is at the root of the sales of communal assets by very young people who do not know the history of land. You know that in a particular situation that I did witness, not just land was sold, but a waterway, a stream was blocked because someone bought land and bought stream, part of stream, built a wall to block the stream. I say, who does that? Hi, real yogurts. You're welcome to my stream. I'd like to also entertain your questions or observations, if any. So I was saying that these people bought all of that, bought over streams, bought over land, bought over, bought a water body and built right across it. As in, that was the height of it. You have people, interestingly, this water body is considered by the locals as spiritual. So people who are dealing with some ailments and all that go to bathe in it on instructions by traditional healers, and they do a lot of things there, to wash off all their ailments. Some people come offer sacrifices, bring different kind of sacrifices in that water body. And then because of pecuniary gains, these ones go and sell off a water body. A fence is made into a water body, and that was the height of it. I have never. Okay, yes, maybe in some parts of Lagos they would dredge, yes, and all that. But this is the first time this is happening in some part of IGBOLAND. And you have people who have sold land and a water body, a major water body that used to serve not only as bathing places for the community, but in the past, before this time period, was a source of potable water. Maybe not potable, yeah, potable water. Because of course at the where the stream begins, at the head of it, you can drink the water, and then downwards, as it flows down, you can then have your bath and do all the other sanitary things around in the past. So all of that culture, all of that tradition is not respected today. All of that is not respected today. What you find is the denigration and the desecration of society, of tradition, of way of life, of things that were either to not seen in our time. This is very sad. This is very sad. So, like I was saying, if you're listening and these are you've seen these kind of things happening in your locality, I would love for you to share your experiences so that we can talk about it, and we can look at the situation where we can offer solutions into all of these, into these kind of challenges that is currently plaguing some parts of IGBOLAND and tearing the community apart at great speed. So thank you once again. I have discussed tonight, this morning, afternoon, depending on your location, the issue of sale of communal assets in IGBOLAND that is tearing our society apart in bits. Thank you very much for your time. Again, make your comments and let us talk about this very sad development. Thank you all.